This is a special episode where I have a guest, and it happens to be Matt Hoffman, who also has an iPhone 15 Pro Max. And we talk about our first impressions, what we like, what we don't like. Is there anything we don't like? We'll cover it all coming up. It's Monday, October 16th, and do not adjust your podcast player. That's right. This is an extra show. Thought we'd throw one in. Dave's still on vacation in Palm Springs. He will be back tomorrow to Pittsburgh. But in the meantime, I have a guest that we're going to talk about our first impressions of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And that happens to be Matt Hoffman. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Greg. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm not bad. Not
Good.
bad.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no, this is great. You know, I had said on the podcast that I wasn't going to upgrade. And then a few weeks ago, I decided, yeah, what the heck? And so I got my phone last Tuesday, and so here we are. We're going to talk about the first impressions. Now, when did you get yours? Did you get yours on day one, or was it a little after?
Probably a week after, maybe. So I pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
Which so here's my little iPhone ordering story. I'm normally never excited enough to like feel like I need to have it right away.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from the 12 Pro Max, which I understood this was going to be a big jump, right?
Oh, yeah.
However, the 12 Pro Max is a great phone. I wasn't really noticing anything about it that seemed like the performance of it was degrading, or the battery wasn't, working right or anything like that. Everything was fine. So I was in no real hurry to get this new phone. I was going to get it, just because I don't know.
You just weren't biting at the bit to get it on day one or anything.
Yeah, I really didn't care. And then, basically, like the day that the phones were released for pre-order, my wife said something about wanting to get a new phone, and she's still rocking was still rocking a 10S. And she does actually a lot of videos for like workouts that she does and stuff. So her phone was like a 64 gigabyte, 10S, and it was pretty much full. And she was thinking that she maybe wanted to get a bigger phone so she could see her videos better and all that stuff. So, I ended up ordering her the 15 Plus.
Oh, okay.
And she got the, I don't know, 256 gigabytes or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I mean, if I'm ordering her one, I may as well order mine too. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
And then hers came first. Hers came like literally maybe the day of. I can't remember now. Yeah, or maybe like a couple days after the phones, started. Yeah, it wasn't long after people started getting their hands on them, and then mine was like a handful of days later.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's pretty good because I ordered mine, I think it was a week after the pre-order. And I didn't get it. Like I said, I didn't get it till last Tuesday, which was quicker than the initial date that they gave me. It was like a week ahead of what the original date was supposed to be.
Yeah, mine came, I guess, pretty much when they said it would. Although I was questioning that because I guess I managed to order mine in a somewhat timely manner before the shipping window got pushed out a bunch because we ended up, so we have AT&T for our phone service, and we ended up going to the local AT&T store once my wife's phone came because she wanted to get a case for it. And we went to Best Buy and they were like cleaned out. Their selection really sucked. So we went to AT&T, and the guy that was like ringing us out, he's asking like, are we AT&T customers, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, really?
And anyway, he asked me some question, and I was like, yeah, I got the 15 Pro Max coming. And he was like, oh yeah. He's like, well, good luck with that. People aren't going to see those until middle of October at the earliest. And I was like, oh, huh. Thought mine was going to come a lot sooner than that, but I mean, whatever, I could wait.
Yeah.
And then it was like 2 days later, mine showed up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's weird how it goes. The last two phones that I've got, so I was on the 12 Pro Max, and last year I went to the 14 Pro Max, and I ordered them both right at the time, right on the minute that it opened. And within 2 minutes of each time, within 2 minutes, the order was done, bang. And then I got them on opening day of when the phones actually came out. But this time, a little different. But anyway, so that's our ordering details.
so exciting.
Yeah, I know. If you're still awake, folks. So first impression, let's talk about build quality. I mean, it's a slightly new design this year. When I got mine, I took the case off my 14 Pro Max, and I didn't have this one in the case yet, and I did the old weight test, right? They say it's lighter. I didn't really notice it being that much lighter.
No, I couldn't tell a single bit of difference. And before my phone showed up, I had it in my head that I was going to weigh them, because I have a scale that I use for work, one of those like little scales that can measure grams and ounces and all that stuff. Makes it sound like I'm into some nefarious stuff, but I promise you it's a scale for legit purposes. Yeah. In any case, I forgot. I ended up, packaging up my 12 Pro Max to send out for the trade-in, and I totally forgot about weighing it. But I did hold them both in my hand, just like you did. Yeah, and I couldn't tell a difference at all. To me, they felt exactly the same.
Yeah, the only time I felt the slightest difference was when you actually, you rolled it around. They say the inertia of the new one it makes it feel lighter. Something to do with the way, it's got the aluminum inside and all that stuff. And I don't know. Honestly, it just wasn't that much lighter, than the 14 Pro Max. And in fact, I just sent my 14 Pro Max back today, in the box for the trade-in. So that I had the deep purple one, and I tell you, I'm gonna miss that phone just because it looks so good. The deep purple with the purple steel frame around the outside, it was actually just a really nice looking phone. But also, it was in a stupid case all the time. So what's the difference, right?
Yeah, I know.
But anyway,
that's why I just went with the. Well, I don't even know what color my 12 Pro Max was. It was probably like whatever dark gray color they had.
Right.
Because I don't know. I never get colors because I'm like, well, I'm not going to see it anyway.
Yeah.
And it was the same for this phone. I just got the natural titanium.
I hear it's a really nice color though. Like it's a really nice finish.
Well, there's a couple different ways to look at it. One is that, it's a really nice finish. Like I like the look of natural titanium. Like for instance, I'm really into bikes, bicycling, mountain biking, gravel bikes, all that stuff. And I love the look of like a raw titanium frame. It just looks so awesome. But then I heard somebody mention about how it looks so sterile. It's like being in a hospital, and seeing the, the metal tray with the utensils. And I'm like,
yeah,
that definitely gives it a whole new perspective that isn't exactly attractive.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it looks great. I really like it.
Yeah. Um, I like the feel of the rounded edges compared to the 12 Pro Max, 13 and 14. They all had the
Absolutely.
abrupt corners on them. So it does feel better, holding it, which is
Yeah,
good.
I definitely noticed that because I used the phone for probably at least a handful of days, if not almost a week, without a case, which was absolutely terrifying, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't have a case for it. I ordered a case. I ordered a Moment case for some reason. I don't know. I just liked one of the colors they had, so I ordered it,
Hmm.
and it didn't ship. And I got my
Oh,
phone, and I had no case, and just had to wait until I had time to go shopping for one. So now I have two cases
yeah.
because I had to. I didn't know when the Moment case was going to come, so I went to a store and bought a case, and then 2 days later, the Moment case showed up. So
Well,
that's how that
isn't
works out.
yeah, that's always the way, isn't it?
Yep.
So I mean, as far as build quality and all that stuff goes, that's it's got the action button. I haven't done anything with that yet. I still use it to shut the ringer off, and it's off
Yeah.
most of the time anyway.
So I don't know. I thought it was cool, and I think I need to maybe look into like how to program it with shortcuts or whatever to do something that's truly useful.
Yeah,
And I feel like for some people, when you go into the settings for the short or the action button, the options it gives you, like for some people, will be useful. Um, I decided to try out the camera, switching it to where it activates the camera. But like when I tap on the screen and it's on my lock screen, the camera icon is down there in the
yeah,
lower right. And that, to me, that seems like way easier and faster than trying to remember to hit this action button.
or
So,
even just a simple swipe.
or
Swipe
that,
from the
yeah.
lock screen and it's open.
So I just thought this is kind of silly.
Yeah,
So I switched it back to where it just activates the, silent mode, until I
yeah.
figure out if there's a better use for it or not.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I could program it to say open reflex or something like that, but I've got a reflex um, thing right on my a widget right on my lock
Oh,
screen. So I mean,
cool.
that defeats that one too.
Ah, I'll have to look into that. That's cool.
Yeah, and you're I think you said you still use Halide a fair bit, so they've got their widgets and everything too that you can put on your lock screen, and it's so it's really nice to just be able to touch that widget and it opens up it's Face ID, and then it opens up the camera that you want the camera that you want, not necessarily the default camera. But
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome.
yeah, so I mean, we're not going to get into iOS 17 per se unless it really has to do with the camera, I guess. But as far as the camera goes, um, I'm digging it. I'm liking the different focal lengths that they have. I was a little disappointed that the focal lengths on the 1X camera, the main camera, um, didn't change as much as I thought they might. When you go from 24 millimeter to 28 millimeter to 25 or 35 millimeter. I mean, I guess they're very subtle changes, but I mean, they kind of work. And then I think it still has the two times, right? Yeah, it still has the
It
two
does, yeah.
times. And then since we both have the Pro Maxes, it goes to five times. And the five times is really cool.
It is. Yeah, so I felt like coming from the 12 Pro Max, this camera on this phone on the 15 Pro Max was kind of a lot to take in and understand, because it's doing a lot more things and it's got all these options.
Mm-hmm.
So I really had to dive into the settings and kind of tailor it to what I want. So um kind of kind of felt like these like additional lenses, like this 28 and 35 millimeter for the most part are it's not really that they're useless, but they're kind of useless. So I disabled the 28 millimeter, and I kept the 35 because I think the 35 is, well, 35 isn't 2 times, but
No, but
I kept,
it's a good jump in between the 24 and the 48.
yeah. So I kept that, um, and then and then you could change your default lens
Yeah.
to either be like the true like 1 times lens, which is 24 millimeters, or a 1.5, which would be 35. So I don't want
Hmm.
mine to default to 35. I have it set to default to 24.
Yeah.
But you have all these options, which I guess is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
To so you can really tailor the camera to be you know what you want it to be, and then I guess some other settings that I enabled that I thought were cool were the portraits in photo mode, where you
Yeah.
you can take a picture of a person or a dog or a cat. You don't have to be in portrait mode, but if
Or a church steeple.
oh, okay.
I took a picture of a church steeple with the 120, and I have that setting on too, right? The portrait, whatever. Um, and obviously I was not in portrait mode, but when I opened the image, it said portrait at the top, and I could actually. There was only a very small hint of trees in the background. The most of it was sky. But when I went to edit it, I could actually change the f-stop, and you could see the trees in the bottom of the background. They're actually blurred a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't have to be. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a person or a dog or a cat.
Hmm.
There must have been
Well,
something in this steeple, and I could not see a face in this steeple at all. But there must have been something in there that the algorithm picked up and said, "Oh, we got a face."
huh. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
Well, I do think that ability to go back after the fact and, make it, add that depth information is pretty cool.
Yeah, and change the focus too if you want.
Yeah.
Like I don't do selfies. I really don't do selfies. But my wife and I were out walking the dog one time, and I thought, oh, what the heck? I'm going to take a selfie of her and I, right? And so afterwards, I was playing with this image, and I tapped on my face, and it was with the selfie camera, but it still had the portrait information in it, right? So I switched it to portrait, and then I could tap on my face and focus, or she was standing just a little bit behind me, tap on her face, and it changed to make her clear. So it was cool. It's kind of fun to play with.
Yeah, that is very cool. And then, some other things I thought were neat were, um, you can have your main camera either shoot in 12 megapixel or 24 megapixels. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if you take like epic amounts of pictures and tend to fill up phones with pictures, then, maybe consider 12 megapixel. Or if all you do is shoot to post to Instagram or something, 12 megapixels is probably plenty.
It's
Um,
plenty, yeah.
yeah. Uh, Now I'm saying that, but I have mine set to 24.
Me too.
Yeah. Now,
um,
have you shot any of the 48 megapixel raw files and played with them like on your computer?
let's see. I think I probably have. But you know what? My favorite focal length has always been the telephoto on whichever phone I'm using. So, like on my 12 Pro Max, I think it was a 65 millimeter focal length. And then the 13 is when they changed it to 77. So I was using 77 all the time on my 14 Pro Max. And of course, it only shoots 12 megapixel. Um, Now this one, the 15 Pro Max, it's jumping to 120, and just kind of on a real short little tangent. Today was the last day I could try my 14 Pro Max. So what I did when I was out was I took a picture with the 77 millimeter on the 14 Pro Max, put it in my pocket, got out the 15 Pro Max, digitally dialed it to 3 times, and then took a shot. And then when I got home, I compared them on the computer, and obviously the digital zoom was not as clear, but it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't as clear. And it was, instead of being 77 millimeters, it turned out to be 74. Now that could be just, sensor lens relationship or whatever that made it do that. I don't know, but to your point about a 48 megapixel RAW, yes, I did do one, and it was a picture of this. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. It was a picture of, and actually I'll share it with you, and I'll even post it on the website for this, the post on the website for this episode. Let's see here. So it's just this kind of a hill that goes up in the local park, and there you see that.
All right.
Yeah, so it's a hill that goes up in the local park, and all these roots are exposed from erosion and whatnot from the trees that are on the hill. And it's let's see here. So if I zoom in, it's not bad, but what I'm finding with now, let's see, I'm trying to think. I might have been secretly testing some lenses with this shot. Which I was secretly testing a certain lens with this shot. And I'm not going to say what it is. Not yet. But anyway, so I had a lens on here. It's not true optic, like it's not from it's from the main camera, the 24 millimeter camera at 48 megapixel, but it's also a shot with a lens on. So the clarity is not exactly what you would get without a lens. But I wanted to I was actually comparing it to the 48 millimeter setting. Right there, you can see it on my screen. So that's 12 megapixel from the 48 millimeter focal length, and it's fairly close. I'd say maybe this isn't quite as detailed.
Yeah,
but I did play around with a little bit the 48 megapixel. I used it a lot with my 14 Pro Max, and I'm gonna not use it as much with this one, and I'll tell you why. I decided, okay, I do iCloud photo library. That's my photo library. Keep everything in there so everything's on my phone, everything's on my Mac. And in my infinite wisdom, on Friday, just this past Friday, I decided I'm going to start a new photos library with the 15 Pro Max and put all my old photos on a hard drive. It took me 3 days.
Oh, wow. And
the way I did it was I went to iCloud.com. I did it right from iCloud.com. And you can only download 1,000 at a time. I had 24,000 in some images.
Oh,
and about 1,200 videos. So hopefully I'm not going to get throttled by my internet provider. But so I mean, and because that was like I bet you it was like half a terabyte or more of pictures and video.
Wow.
So and I set it to download originals. I didn't care about the edits. If I want to edit them again, I could do that, but I just wanted the original full res images, right? So finally it's all done. And when I kept the 14 Pro Max in a separate, like, every time I downloaded, it would create a new folder. And I started labeling 14 Pro Max. Those folders in the 14 Pro Max, because of that 48 megapixel sensor, were all about 3 or 4 times big as the folders from anything prior. Because I shot
Yeah, I believe it.
so many times I'd use 48 megapixel. So now I'm gonna start using it a little more sparingly, and just, you know, save that um image, that file size, for when I really think I might want to use it for something.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. Now I did notice off the look in the camera set, the actual native camera app settings again to see if this is an option. But I know in like Halide and I think maybe some of the other third party camera apps, you could set it so that it takes a 24 megapixel raw instead of a 48. So
Oh
that would
yeah.
be, yeah, that would be one way to reduce the size. So in the last, I don't know, let's say week or so, I've been trying to shoot a lot with this camera and or this phone rather. Honestly, it feels like a camera. It feels like a camera that just happens to do other stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Instead of the other way around. Um, but I've been trying to shoot a lot, trying to utilize, the different formats and the different focal lengths and everything. And then I've been uploading the images to my Mac so that I could look at them, on a bigger screen and just kind of see. It's not so much that I really want to pixel peep, but I want to pixel peep. I want to see like
Yeah.
what is this phone really capable of? What does 48 megapixels get me in terms of image quality? Is it something that's really worth using? And I'll tell you, the jury's still out on that.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, the pictures are big. They're actually freaking huge.
Yeah. Oh
As
yeah.
we just discussed. That's one of the things I've been looking at the file size difference and everything, and it's like, wow, these are gigantic files. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure that like the image quality is any better per se. Like when you really start zooming in, 100% or past 100% on these pictures, you were just showing that picture, and I know the listeners didn't really see it, but the picture with the hill with the roots, and as you kind of zoomed in on it, it started getting much less defined. And I realized that,
Yeah.
digital images more or less are kind of all like that. But, these sensors are little, they're still little,
Hmm.
even though they're
Hmm.
bigger than they used to be, they're still little.
Yeah.
Um, and the image degrades really fast. They look amazing when you're looking at them on the phone, or even when you're looking at them 100% or smaller, like on a computer.
Yeah.
Um, they look fantastic, but once you really start digging into them, they lose detail. You know, fine details get kind of lost in them, I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah.
Um, but the raw files, they edit nicely. Now, I have a caveat to that. Um, Probably for now, the best bet is to use, if you were going to get these off your phone and onto a computer. I'm sure probably Lightroom has been updated, Photoshop or whatever, to handle the raw files from these new phones. And I would assume that Apple's Photos app, is that what it's called on the Mac? I don't use it, so
Yep.
I don't remember.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'm sure that has no trouble with them. So I use On One Photo Raw, and it's doing some funky stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So um, I've done a few edits in it and they turned out fine. They were fine. However, there are some certain sliders I've noticed that if I want to use like an auto adjust, basically, like to adjust, tone and color and stuff, it's cranking the tint slider all the way to the left. So it's like 100% like to the green
Oh,
side.
wow.
And if I'm like, so the first time I noticed that, I'm like, whoa, that's weird. Why is it all the way over there? And I just ever so slightly moved it to the right a little bit so that it was like 98 in the green instead of 100 in the green.
Hmm.
And my image was like completely magenta, like completely.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I was like, what in the world happened here? So I think On One maybe just needs to, have an update or something. At least I hope so. But I probably,
Hmm.
won't make a habit of doing editing of these my phone images on the computer. You know, um, Polar doesn't seem to be having a problem. That's my favorite editor, and I've
Yeah.
done a few edits with it, and it just seems normal. I think
Hmm.
they've had updates and stuff. So, um, but on the computer, I had a couple images that were really, really wacky with the colors.
Well, I haven't tried editing a 48 megapixel Pro RAW file on the computer in anything other than photos up to this point. I do have Affinity Photo. I have Pixelmator Pro. I have Photomator. So I've had all these ones to try. Um, I think I've tried Photomator on the phone. I've tried Darkroom on the phone. Oh, I've got Darkroom on the Mac as well. Yeah, I just haven't tried editing anything really on the Mac in anything really other than photos. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform as well. Um, but that's weird about On One like that. It's I mean, going from negative 100 to negative 98 and it goes from green to pink. That's
Yeah,
messed up.
yeah, yeah. It's really strange. Um, so I have to go back in and play with like a JPEG. Um, I didn't try to adjust any JPEGs in there, and I doubt that that'll be a problem, but who knows? It
Yeah.
is only the raw files that I noticed it on.
Hmm. So have you had the chance to, okay, so you've been shooting a fair bit. The 120, like the 120 millimeter in less than really, really bright conditions. Have you pixel peeped on that? Because I
Yes.
have, and it's not the best in my opinion.
No.
That's where it's going to fall apart, if anything. Now it's got a smaller aperture than the main camera, obviously, but if it's really bright, if there's enough bright things in the frame, then it's not so bad. Even I think I sent a night mode shot, excuse me, of the front of a church. I think I sent that to our iMessage chat that a bunch of us have there, and it didn't turn out too bad, but it was well lit.
Yeah. So now that you mention it, if I think about like all the shooting that I've been doing recently, the lighting conditions probably weren't the best. I mean, they were fine in terms of producing like interesting pictures, but in terms of like uh for the camera's ability to do its best work, they weren't the best conditions. They were like, dimmer. We're having overcast days. I'm in the woods, so it's even
Mm-hmm.
darker.
Yeah.
But like if I think about even today, I had an opportunity to stop at a spot that I frequent where there's like a little waterfall, and I went down below the falls and then quite a ways downstream and then turned around shooting back at the waterfall and used the 5 times zoom. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great shot. I'm sure I'll edit it and share it, on Instagram or something sometime soon here. But it was one where even just on the phone, I decided to kind of zoom into it. I just wanted to see like what do the trees like in the very, very background look like? Because I could kind of tell just from looking at it, not zoomed in, that there's not really much detail there,
Right. Yeah.
But now that you mentioned, the lighting, I'm sure that's the culprit. There.
Well, and the other thing is too that if it's less than ideal conditions, it zooms the main camera. It doesn't use the telephoto all the time like it should.
Well, and then what does it tell you that like in the EXIF data?
I'm not sure. Let me see if I can find a somewhat dark image and see if I can see that.
Yeah, I can't do this math in my head, but I would think you would notice a difference in the megapixels of the image as well.
Well, I think it's using okay, so I have a shot here of a sunrise and the sun isn't quite up yet. There's a lot of darkness in the image. And it says it's the 120 millimeter. I even had it at minus 0.7 on the EV. And so it's f2.8. So it must have been using the telephoto camera.
Yeah, because I have done on one of my shoots a few days ago, just so I fully knew like which lens was which. I was kind of sticking my finger in front of them, and doing that whole thing. But again, it was in the woods, and it was using the lens that I expected it to use.
Yeah.
So I
even tried using reflex. And so reflex has 3 lens settings. One is the main lens, and the other one's the ultra wide, and the other one's the telephoto. So obviously it's going to go to the 120 with this phone when you hit telephoto. And in less than optimum conditions, like when it's kind of dark or whatever, it uses that telephoto, but I think I have one here. It's not the greatest quality. And when I say that, what I mean is, it's kind of noisy. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Just if you really zoom in on the image, it just kind of falls apart a little bit. And it's not reflex. It's not anything like that. It's the Apple camera. It's the way it works. It's the, I think maybe they'll update it with, better algorithms or something. But, it's very noisy. Almost like when you try to shoot the stars at night, and you know how the sky has that really mottled look to it.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I have noticed that. You know what? I'm gonna run some of these pictures through. I might wait to do this until On One has an update, but they have basically like a denoise, and then I forget what the feature's called. It's kind of like a sharpening kind of function where it can take images that are slightly blurry and make them look like they're make them look sharp or whatever. Maybe I'll run some of these telephoto images through that and see what it can do. But again, I don't think they're that bad. I'm pixel peeping because I just
me too. Yeah. Like I'm zooming in that beyond 100%.
Yeah, if I shared any of these online, like no one's going to look at it and be like, "What a pile of garbage picture that is! It looks terrible." Like nobody's going to notice that at all.
Well, this steeple picture that I took, it was kind of dark. Like it was 20 after 7 in the morning, and I think the sun, it was about 10 minutes from rising yet, and it was completely overcast. But yet it actually came out pretty darn sharp. But you can see that there's the noise, there's the noise in the image. But without pixel peeping, if you just leave it the way it is, it doesn't look that bad. And I think that probably goes for just about any picture I've taken with that telephoto lens.
Have you done any long exposures yet?
I did some with Reheld today.
Dude, Reheld is freaking amazing. So,
yeah.
I know you've been on the reflex, Reheld, re-expose train for a while now.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, was resisting your vibes. I'm like, halide or bust,
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I mean, I like trying new things, and I always felt that Spectre, worked pretty good, for handheld long exposures. And of course, if I'm going to use a tripod, like why would I not use
slow shutter?
Thank you. Yeah. And so I thought, I'm going to try out, this handheld stuff again. And man, re-expose, I can't get a bad picture with it. I can't.
Re-expose or Reheld?
Or Reheld, I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, one of those apps. Yeah. Reheld. What an amazing app. So, I have tried both Spectre and Reheld side by side, like the same exposure length, like 3 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever. And I don't know what happened to Spectre.
Yeah.
I can't get a sharp image. I just can't. I'm not that shaky, and so I don't know what's going on. And Reheld has just knocked my socks off with how sharp.
Yeah.
The
Well,
images
it
are.
uses a different technology, I believe, than Spectre. Like Spectre, from what I understand, uses the stability in the sensor, whereas Reheld, it aligns the frames using AI, and of course you have to have a static object in the frame or it's just going to lose its shit. It's going to lose its mind. But if there's something static that it can latch onto, the image alignment is so good with the AI and whatever it uses that
it really is.
Man, they come up so sharp. It just blows me away.
Yeah, I used it. I used it today, but I did use it like on a tripod, and obviously it's going to work great, on a tripod. I love being able to do these like longer exposures, like 10 seconds or more, because I find that like just the way these apps work with these simulated long exposures, to me, anything less than 10 seconds, especially if you're shooting water, and although light trails sometimes get this effect, I know we've talked about this effect for as long as long exposures have been a thing, with iPhones, is that crimping kind of look.
Yeah.
Right. And so, if anyone doesn't really understand what I'm talking about, it's,
braiding is another way to phrase it.
Yeah. It's the iPhone's taking, a crazy amount of pictures and kind of just showing you the movement, kind of blending all those pictures together. So like, let's just say you were taking a picture of like a waterfall, and there happened to be like this, I don't know, a chunk of bright foam or something that came over the fall. Well, as it's falling, it's taking, 60 frames a second or whatever it's doing, and it's stacking all those pictures together. So you're going to have that bright chunk of foam showing up, 60 times.
Yeah.
or however long your exposure was, like 120 times, as it's going down the fall. And, it's in a slightly different spot each time. So it looks like your waterfall has got this like crimped or braided look to it. And it just looks different than if you had shot with like, a digital camera or a film camera with a true long exposure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're able to, use these apps and do, I feel like it's at least 10 seconds or longer.
Yeah.
It's enough to like smooth everything out and make it look a little bit more natural. So that's what I've been doing. I last week got in front of some water and some waterfalls, and then today again. And I feel, 10 seconds. I did a few 15-second shots today, and, they're nice and silky smooth. They look really great.
Yep. Yeah. I find the speed of the water kind of determines how long I put it on for. Like the slower the water, I think the longer I would put it, like the exposure time. So, but you're right. Anything less than 10 seconds, you're really in jeopardy of getting that crimping, look to it. And, and it drives me nuts. And unless I do it on purpose, like I did today, I did 1 second exposures of this water crashing in against these rocks. And it actually kind of works out pretty good. You do see a little bit of that crimping in some of them, but for the most part, it looks pretty smooth. The way around that is to use an ND filter, of course. And I wrote a blog post for Reflex, and it's on their website about shooting with an ND filter and re-expose. Or was it re-expose or just reflex? But anyway, taking the traditional photographic approach to it really does produce good results. But that's a whole nother show.
Well, I'll have to look that up and read it, because I discovered just the other day that I need to learn how to shoot on an iPhone with an ND filter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I recently got like a filter holder that uses the MagSafe.
Oh yeah,
thing, right? And I bought a ND filter and a polarizer for it. And a polarizer is a polarizer. I don't need any help with a polarizer. But the ND filter, I don't know. I feel like I definitely wasn't getting the results I was looking for. I was either getting underexposed or overexposed pictures. I was having part of it too. I think I was using an app that I'm not 100% familiar with, because I don't use it a lot. I have to relearn this app as well, but
yeah,
I'm going to read your guide. I need help.
Well, I'll find the link here and I'll send it to you. But it does, it really makes a difference in between using a filter and not using a filter.
Yeah, so like I'm really, really super duper loving the polarizer. I had I think a Moment filter holder for my last phone. And the coverage was only big enough for the smaller, basically the smaller camera bump.
Oh, okay.
That the 12 Pro Max had. So I had to get something else for this new phone. And I like it. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get the job done.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So as far as first impressions go, is there anything that you're disappointed in with this new one?
No, like with the phone in general or the camera
With the camera system.
I don't think so, because I don't upgrade every year, so it's not like I could compare this to the 14 and say, oh well, it did this better, or I wish it had that, or whatever. This is such a significant jump in terms of features and I suppose image quality from the 12 Pro Max that to me it seems like, it's all positive for me.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say the same. And I'm coming from the 14 Pro Max, but where I see a difference is in night mode. I think it does a little better job. And I mean that extra reach with the 120 millimeter is just, I mean, it's everybody's disappointed that wasn't 10 times, but the 5 times is still pretty darn good. It's a lot better than I thought it would be. I mean, it's my go-to camera on these things, as I mentioned earlier, and I really do like it. So as far as if there's anything I'm disappointed in, I think it would only be, the fact that you got that mushy noise look on low light shots from that camera that aren't night mode. But I mean, other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. Would I recommend it to anybody? I think so when the 14 Pro Max came out, I always said that if you have the 12 Pro Max, it's a significant jump, if anything, for the 48 megapixel camera. So now I would say it's from the 13 Pro Max, it's a very significant jump. Just because you've got the 48 megapixel, but you've got that extra reach with the Pro Max. The Pro still has the 77 millimeter. And so, I mean, if anybody's looking for an iPhone that's a smaller size and has a great camera system, but just not as much reach, that's your model. But if you want that extra reach, you got to get the bigger one, and you won't be disappointed. I mean, it is pretty nice, and it's really cool. I don't know if you've noticed this, Matt, but when you're on the 120 and you're kind of holding it and trying to compose your shot, it looks so smooth that it's not really jiggly. It's really smooth at how it moves around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
That's that stabilization network, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't noticed any, like, I don't know, frame rate issues or anything like that. I think the screen is refreshing fast enough or whatever that everything looks nice and smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the things too, and this is not really this isn't the iPhone itself, but I bought this screen protector from Zag.
Mm-hmm.
Right? ZAGG. And of course, I'll have to look it up. I forget what the screen protector is called, but if you went on their website, it's like whatever their most top of the line screen protector is. And, they boast that it boosts the colors and makes the blacks deeper. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And I got to tell you, they're not lying.
Oh,
I like looking at anything on this phone is just a pleasure. It looks amazing. And then I don't know what kind of coatings are on this screen protector, but I've had it on since the day I got the phone. So I've had the phone for, I don't know, 2 weeks now, about.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, about 2 weeks. There's no fingerprints. I haven't cleaned fingerprints off this thing one time.
You're kidding.
No, not even joking. It's
Mine's
amazing.
Full of fingerprints.
No, I bought 2 of these. I bought one for Liz, for my wife, for her
mm-hmm.
phone, and one for me. And I asked her just the other day, I said, have you noticed how amazing your phone screen looks, like, always? And she was like, you're right. It does look good. I said, yeah, there's no fingerprints. It just looks awesome all the time.
I'll have to have a look at those.
Yeah,
and I've never been one for a screen protector. I've never put one on.
Oh, dude, I would have spent so much money getting screens replaced if I didn't have a screen protector.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And the same with my wife. She breaks screen protectors way more than I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing, but it's like every time I turn around, she needed a new one.
Well, I'll definitely have to have a look at those. Now, this screen, is it not slightly curved, even just the slightest little bit? on the edge?
I'm not. I don't know. Let's see.
I think it is.
Yeah, the screen protector doesn't go like to the super duper edge. It's
Oh,
got a
okay.
little bit of space around it because they promoted as I didn't mean for this to turn into an ad for Zag, but they promote their screen protectors as being case compatible.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just blown away by it because I've used Zag for many, many years now. They're, in my opinion, their screen protectors are kind of pricey up front, but they have like a lifetime warranty. So if whatever, you crack it, you get bubbles in it, whatever happens to it, you just, as long as you have registered it on their website, you can get basically a free one replacement.
Oh, nice.
And it saved me epic amounts of money over the years. So I continue to use them, and they continue to have, improvements, and they have all different, kinds of screen protectors. So like if you need one where it's
sounds like it'd be cheaper than AppleCare.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess for a screen, I have AppleCare as well.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, my phone goes everywhere, and it's in too many crazy situations where something could happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have the theft, loss, war, famine replacement policy.
AppleCare Plus or whatever, so that probably covers all that stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the one let's just end it with the one thing that you like the most about it. We'll go two ways here. We'll go the phone itself and then the camera.
Right now I am enamored with the 48 megapixel Pro RAW.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was with the last year with the 14 Pro Max for sure.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, and I feel pretty strongly about this just from watching Shane Mostyn's videos, that I'm going to, if you ask me this again, like maybe in, I don't know, a few weeks or a month from now, I'm hoping I'll say that my favorite thing is night mode. I'm very excited to go out and try to get some Milky Way shots.
Yep.
I still have a ton of stuff I really want to do with this camera. So, Milky Way is on the very, very, very short-term agenda. And then I don't know, the phone. Here's the thing. So I do like, I think the dynamic island is cool because I didn't have it on the 12 Pro Max.
Yep.
But other than that, I don't know what's different. Like to me, it's just the same. It's the same as what I had.
Yeah, there's not a big enough difference in iOS. Even though now that we're on 17, even really not as as big a difference. I mean, unless you're in FaceTime and you go like this, and then you get those bubbles come up. I just did it on the Mac, but it's the same. Works the same on the iPhone. But I mean, like as far as features go, I think you're right. There's nothing really that stands out and drops the old jaw, right? But for me, as far as the camera goes, I think the biggest wow factor for me is the 120 millimeter. I pretty much covered that. But as far as the phone itself goes, I think I'm in the same boat as you. I was on the 12 Pro Max. I remember it quite well. And then I went to the 14 Pro Max. The biggest thing there was the 48 megapixel. And with this one, it's well, you know what? Okay, here's something that I forgot to mention is I did some slow-mo video of these waves crashing against these rocks. And it looked really good definitely compared to the 12 Pro Max, but even compared to the 14 Pro Max, I think it was somewhat better.
Like in what way?
Just the quality. just more clear, I guess.
Like maybe smoother a little bit or something.
Yeah, and I did it in 120 and not 240, because when I set it to 240, things got kind of dark. I knew it wasn't going to be as good, because of course when you go to 240, it's using faster frames, I guess, for each frame of the video, faster shutter speed, so you're going to get darker video. But when I went to 120, it came out pretty good, I thought. I mean, it looked pretty clean, really clean for slow motion video.
Nice. Yeah, I believe it or not, I did some slow-mo video recently, but not with this phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We did some slow-mo videos of my son's RC
Oh,
truck
okay.
jump in a big giant tree stump.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it turned out really cool.
So you could adjust the frame rate in like iMovie or something like that to make it look fairly realistic, I would think. That's what I would do.
I haven't even thought about it. We just wanted to see like what it looked like in slow-mo, so we made some videos.
Yeah. That's cool. Well,
yeah.
I think we've kind of gone over some pretty good first impressions with this thing, and I'd have to say it's pretty much all positive, really. I can't really think of anything too negative about it at all.
No, absolutely not. It's well, yeah,
but
yeah, I guess I don't know.
So, well, I guess that's it for now. We can, maybe we can come back in 6 months or so and see what we think then, or whatever. We can have you back on the show on a regular episode even, and talk about it some more. Unless nothing changes really, but I think you see all these YouTube videos where people do like Aaron Zolo's really good for it. This iPhone or that iPhone 6 months later, and then he kind of gives a quick review of it, just to give his impressions of what he thinks of it and all that stuff, even after all that time. So I don't know, if we think of it, maybe we'll revisit it and talk about it some more, and because we'll have a chance to try more apps, and maybe your editing process or experience will be different by then, on your Mac.
Likely, very likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that I'll have done some night Milky Way shots and star shots, and I still have other long exposed cityscape, nighttime light streak stuff. So
yeah, and hopefully by then Zoom will stop crashing on me. It's crashed twice now since we've been on record. But anyway, well, thanks for coming on, Matt. Actually, this was fun. This was your idea, and I'm glad you thought of it. And I just happened to not be at work today, so it was a good day to get on here and talk about it. And we'll tell everybody where they could find you.
Yeah, appreciate that. The best place to catch me right now is probably Instagram. I'm at M Hoffman Photo.
Alrighty. So I'll have a link to your Instagram account and your website.
That's right. I have a website.
Pickfair, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have links to those in the show notes, and you can find me on Instagram at Macmillan Photo, and everywhere. I always say go to about.me/Macmillan, and all my links are there, and you can find us in various groups on Facebook and all that stuff too. So, all right. Well, thanks again, Matt. Really appreciate it. And I guess we'll see everybody in the next one.
Bye-bye.